So I needed a new mirror for my dresser in my bedroom, and I decided that since my personality is 75% enjoying the movie Labyrinth, I would make my own, and it would be Labyrinth inspired. I bought this mirror from TJ Maxx. It was on sale because it was a little bit broken. You can see that the mirror portion is supposed to be at the front of the frame. Instead, there's a little bit of a gap there, so I decided to fill in that gap with some foam clay. And this is going to be a base on which I glue some fake moss and put some eyeball lichen in it. So you can see I'm just taking the clay and I'm just kind of rolling it out into a little line, and then I'm just going to stuff it in the cracks of the mirror frame until it is completely filled up. I really like this foam clay because it's very moldable and it dries very, very lightly. This mirror is already pretty heavy, so I didn't want to weigh it down too much. And being foam, I will also be able to stick the wire stems of the eyeball lichen stalks into that clay and have them be secure. Not to mention, it is going to act to stabilize the mirror in the frame because the mirror is not glued in. There are some like raised bits in the back that keep it in the frame, but it jiggles around in the frame otherwise because the glue that it originally had is no longer there. So you can see that I kind of filled in the cracks there. And then I let it dry overnight, and so I'm back and I put a second coating on. And now I'm going to add the moss. So I'm using this glue. I don't know if this is going to stick very well, but I'm going to try it. And then I got some of this premium forest moss on Amazon. It comes in this like sheet of moss. So I did have to cut it up a little bit and just kind of spread it around. I tried different size Q-tips for the glue and I had to use a really small one. So I'm just going to put the glue on kind of a thin layer. I'm being a little bit messy with it because I don't care if the moss gets on the mirror and gets on the frame itself on the front. So I'm just spreading it around and getting it into like the cracks and stuff. And then I'm just going to get some bits of the moss, mush it up a little bit, and then stuff it in there. So kind of lightly putting it on there, and then I'm going to go in and press it in to really get it into that glue. I know a lot of this is going to fall off once the glue is dry, so I might go over it again because this glue does dry clear. So I might go over it again and add a second layer. I know I'm getting it all over the carpet. I should have put something down first to keep the carpet clean, but I'm just going to vacuum it. This carpet's ruined anyway. This is my cosplay room, so there's a lot of stains on here from painting and from various other things. So I'm just going to keep putting the glue on there and then tucking some moss in. And it doesn't really matter if the moss gets into the glue because it's all going into the same place pretty much. So here it is. I put it almost all the way up on this side. I didn't want it to cover the whole mirror. I wanted to look a little bit overgrown. And then I put it up on the top here a little bit. And this is it finished. Now I just have to start making the eyeball stalks to go in there. I really like how it turned out so far. So I'm making these eye stalks out of 14 gauge craft wire. It is malleable, as you can see, easy to bend and twist, but it's also going to give some good support to the eye stalks while allowing me to reposition them so that they're not stuck in the position that I make them in. I'm just twisting them up here and then wrapping them in this floral tape. It's not very sticky. You'll see it kind of comes undone a little bit in places, so I do end up going over it with the glue later. I have to give a huge shout out here to KO Makes Things. I'm not sure if it's KO or Co. I'm calling them KO because they knock out these labyrinth tutorials. I have linked their page down below where they do have some tutorials. I followed their one for the lichen eyeballs. So that's kind of how I decided to do the lichen eyeballs the way that I've done them, basically just by following their tutorial. So this is just going to give me a good base to add some of the hot glue and then more craft floral tape, whatever it's called. I'm wrapping these wires together just to give them a bit more stability because twisting them, they don't really stay. So the floral tape is helping them also stay together in the arrangement that I put them in. I'm just winding this around. It's also going to give it a little bit of extra thickness. I don't want the eyeball stalks to be bulky because they are going to get dried moss on them, which is going to thicken the look of them up. But I do want them to have a little bit of a firm base. So here you see they're all twisted together. And then I'm just going to go over it with some hot glue. This is also going to bulk it up a little bit, but it's also going to help the floral tape stay because it kind of starts to unwind. It's not super sticky, like I said before. And using the hot glue, it helps the wires stay malleable so that I can move it around to reposition the eye stalks even after all of this stuff is done. So you just see here's how it looks. And then I'm wrapping it again with some more floral tape. This is just to cover that hot glue and to give it a bit more thickness and stability. These are 22 millimeter doll eyes. I'm using them with the foam clay. I'm just rolling the foam clay up into a ball to round out the eyeball since these are not full round eyeball shapes. And then I'm tucking the edges up over the edge of the eyeball to give it kind of like, not really an eyelid. KO's tutorial shows how to make eyelids, and I did not do that because they don't appear to be the way the actual Jim Henson lichen moss is in Labyrinth. So then I'm pushing it all the way down onto that stem, and then I'm just rounding it out and then pulling the foam clay a little bit down to give it a bit more support on the stalk. And you can see I already have a few done. And I really like the way they're starting to look. And then I just play with it a little bit, get the shape that I want. So then I am just using this craft glue and I'm just glopping it on, and then going to use this Q-tip with it so that I don't get it all over my hands. I'm not particularly concerned about how neat it is, like whether it gets up onto the eye or not. In fact, I do want some bits to be a little bit more on the white of the eye. And then I'm just tearing up this faux moss. It might be real moss. Oh yeah, it is. It's organic moss. I got it on Amazon. It does come in this really compressed brick of moss, so you do have to kind of cut it up, tear it up, and then I'm just going to stuff it onto the glue and tap it down as I go. There's going to be bits that fall off and stuff, as you can see, but I'm just going to kind of tap it on, and then let it dry whenever I've completed the thing. You can see here how it kind of looks. It's very fluffy, very thick. And then here's it after I have tucked the wires onto the mirror, added some more moss for stability, and I'm ready to hang it. So this is what my Labyrinth mirror looks like hung up. A couple of takeaways from this project. When and if I do it again, I will definitely make the eyeball stalks beforehand and make the wires that connect them to the mirror longer and put them in before putting in the clay around the frame. I just think that would be more stable. I'm also thinking of moving the mirror up a little bit on my wall so that it underlaps with one of those other bubble frames, but otherwise I'm very pleased. What do you think?